Hello, everyone, and welcome to the StoryQuest 5-Day Christmas Writing Challenge. If you guys haven't signed up already, I will be dropping the link so that you guys can sign up and get all the resources that I'm going to go over today and a whole lot more. This is a challenge that I run every year, and I so enjoy seeing all of the amazing stories that the kids write. You have an opportunity for your kid to be published in our next Christmas challenge, win a scholarship to the Adventure Quest and Mystery Quest writing courses, as well as a $10 reading journal that has over 100 pages. That is a digital download that you guys will get if you are one of the 2 lucky winners, and we will have 3 runners up. So I will be guiding you each day in creating your short story, and we'll be reading some really fun Christmas stories. If you guys are new to the StoryQuest Writing Challenge, hi and welcome. Please tell me where you're joining us from and who you have joining us. If you need a chance to download the resources, if you already signed up for the writing challenge, you should have an email with a quick link to download any of the resources you might be missing, and I will be going over each one of those. So here I'm going to This is a free writing challenge that we are hosting, so anyone can participate. Okay, and I went ahead and I dropped a link to that so that everyone can join in. Looks like I have 3 people live with me so far. So go ahead and post in the comments. Tell me where you're joining us from. If you guys are ready to begin the first lesson, go ahead and drop a Christmas emoji in the comments here. So when you sign up for the challenge, you get the fun writing prompts and activity pages that we've created for you. I've created 3 different levels of the different prompts, so some for the younger kids with some fun puzzles, some for the kind of elementary age, 8 to 12 range. Those are going to have some really fun coloring activities, and we also have the ones for the middle school to high school kids, and those ones have some really fun activities where you can complete and draw pictures from your story. So we have 4 different prompts, and you can print out as many of these notebook pages as you want to be able to complete your story. And we have some fun mazes, so that it's going to be a really fun activity for everyone to participate in. This is a great way to be able to get some learning and fun during the holiday season. And if you haven't signed up already, I did drop a link to the free challenge. So let's talk about the prompts. So you're going to pick one of 4 writing prompts to base your short story on. You can also make up your own prompt if you have a great idea for a Christmas short story. So prompt number 1 is: a poor family experiences a Christmas miracle. Their father comes home early, a neighbor gives them firewood for the winter, or turkey for dinner, or someone anonymously leaves gifts for the children. The next prompt is: your character is one of Santa's elves who has been given a reindeer to train to compete in the annual reindeer games. What games do they have to train for, and do they win? Hello, Paisley. Thanks for joining us. Your character doesn't have anyone to spend Christmas with, so they decide to join a festive Christmas Eve parade and tree lighting. They meet a kind family that invites them Christmas with them, and your character must find a gift for the kind family. And finally, a young husky sled dog is tasked with the important duty of bringing Christmas presents to kids of a remote Alaskan town. What challenges must they overcome to get the presents there on time? So you can pick one of these 4 prompts, and all of these prompt pages and notebook pages and activities are available for free if you go to smll.ink/SQ Christmas Challenge. And I went ahead and dropped a link in the comments so that you guys can grab that. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be planning our story. So the first step is to pick your prompt and then to print or open up your summary outline. I have an interactive version and a printable version. I'm going to show you kind of what both of those look like. So this is the summary outline. You want to write 1 sentence for each stage of the story. You're going to write the story title, a summary, the introduction, the call to adventure, the obstacle they have to overcome, the solution, and the ending. And there's 3 different endings that you can pick. You can pick a failure, where they have to learn a lesson. Success, where they successfully accomplish their goal, whether that's bringing presents to the small Alaskan town or competing in the annual reindeer games, or better than success. They may have failed at their original goal, but they get something even better. So this is the printable summary outline, and then I'll also show you guys what the fun interactive one that you can actually use on your laptop, so you don't have to print anything out. So it's a little more colorful and fun, and then you can just click in each box to actually add your outline. So let's talk about some tips for planning your story. So you want to pick your prompt, and then you want to brainstorm a bunch of different ideas. So what are different challenges that your character could encounter? What is their name? What does their regular world look like? Are they at the North Pole, in Alaska? Are they in your backyard? What does your story's setting look like, and what kind of story are you going to be telling? Are you going to be telling a fantasy story like Narnia, an adventure like Treasure Island? You got to think about all these different ideas and write down different things that your characters can encounter or do. Then you want to decide on your favorite ideas and write them down in your outline worksheet. So you want to include an introduction to your character, a call to adventure, an obstacle or challenge that they have to overcome, the solution, and the ending. And you want to do a 1 to 2 sentence summary for each of the 5 stages. That way your short story will stay short. I'd love to hear which prompt that you're going to be using for the StoryQuest Writing Challenge. We are giving away some really awesome prizes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Each day we're going to go over one of the different stages and write our stories together. If you're just joining us new, go ahead and post in the comments and say hello. I'd like to say hello to you guys. So while you are working on your outline and writing your different ideas, I want to read to you some short stories to inspire you. We have a classic Christmas story called The Little Pecola. And if you guys are ready for this story, go ahead and post a emoji in the comments. Hi, Crystal and Joshua. Thanks for joining us. Okay, it looks like people are ready for us to get started. This is a short story by Nora A. Smith. Little Piccola lived in Italy, where the oranges grow and where all the year the sun shines warm and bright. I suppose you think Piccola is a strange name for a little girl, but in her country it was not strange at all. Her mother thought that it was the sweetest name a little girl ever had. What would you name your character in your short story? Is it going to be a name like Little Piccola? Or is it going to be something like Ruby Twinkletoes? What is the name for your character? Is it an elf or a husky? Piccola had no kind father, no big brother or sister, and no sweet baby to play with or love. She and her mother lived all alone in an old stone house that looked on a dark, narrow street. They were very poor, and the mother was away from home almost every day, washing clothes and scrubbing floors, working hard to earn money for her little girl and herself. So we know that this story is set in Italy, and that they live on a dark, narrow street. You see, Piccola was alone a great deal of the time, and if she had not been a very happy, contented little child, I hardly know what she would have done. She had no playthings except a heap of stones in the backyard she used for building houses, and a very old, very ragged doll that her mother had found in the street one day. So we're getting to know a little bit more about Piccola. But there was a round, small hole in the stone wall at the back of her yard, and her greatest pleasure was to look through into her neighbor's garden. When she stood on a stone and put her eyes close to the hole, she could see the green grass in the garden and smell the sweet flowers, and even hear the water splashing into the fountains. She had never seen anyone walk in the garden, for it belonged to an old gentleman who did not care about grass and flowers. Would you go walking in that garden? Sounds like it's really nice. One day in the autumn, her mother had told her the old gentleman had gone away and rented his house to a family of little American children who had come with their sick mother to spend the winter in Italy. After this, Piccola was never lonely, for all day long the children ran and played and danced and sang in the garden. It was several weeks before they saw her at all, and I'm not sure they ever would have done so, but one day the kitten ran away, and in chasing her they came close to the wall and saw Piccola's black eyes looking through a hole in the stone. They were frightened at first and did not speak to her, but the next day she was there again, and Rose, the oldest girl, went up to the wall and talked to her a little while. When the children found she had no one to play with and was very lonely, they talked to her every day and often brought her fruits and candies and passed them through the hole in the wall. One day they pushed the kitten through, but the hole was hardly large enough for her, and she mewed and scratched and was very much frightened. They wanted to share their very precious kitten. After the boy said that he would ask his father if the hole could be made not a little bit larger, then Piccola could come in and play with them. The father found out Piccola's mother was a good woman, and the little girl herself was sweet and kind, so that he was very glad to have some of the stones broken away and an opening made for Piccola to come in. How excited she was, and how glad the children were when she first stepped into the garden. She wore her best dress, a long, brightly colored woolen skirt and a little white waist. Round her neck was a string of beads, and on her feet were little wooden shoes. It would seem very strange to us, would it not, to wear wooden shoes? But Piccola and her mother had never worn anything else, and never had any money to buy stockings. Piccola almost always ran about barefoot, like the kittens and the chickens and the little ducks. What a good time they had that day, and how glad Piccola's mother was that her little girl could have such a pleasant and safe place to play in while she was away at work. By and by, December came, and the little Americans began to talk about Christmas. One day, when Piccola's curly head and bright eyes came peeping through the hole in the wall, they ran to her and helped her in. As they did so, they asked her all at once what she thought she would have for a Christmas present. "A Christmas present," said Piccola. "Why, what is that?" All the children looked surprised at this, and Rose said rather gravely, "Dear Piccola, don't you know what Christmas is?" Oh, yes, Piccola knew it was the happy day when the baby Christ was born, and when she'd been at church on that day, and heard the beautiful singing, and had seen the pictures of the babe lying in the manger, with cattle and sheep sleeping round. Oh, yes, she knew all about that very well, but what was a Christmas present? Then the children began to laugh and to answer all together. There was such clatter of tongues she could only hear a few words now and then, saying chimney, Santa Claus, stockings, reindeer, Christmas Eve, candies, and toys. Piccola put her hands over her ears and said, "Oh, I can't understand one word. Till you tell me, Rose." Then Rose told her about jolly Santa Claus with his red cheeks and white beard and fur coat, all about his reindeer and sleigh of toys. "Every Christmas Eve," said Rose, "he comes down the chimney and fills all the stockings of all the good little children. So, Piccola, you hang up your stocking, and who knows what a beautiful Christmas present you'll find when morning comes." Of course, Piccola thought this was a delightful plan and was very pleased to hear about it. Then all the children told her of every Christmas Eve they could remember and all the presents they'd had. So she went home thinking of nothing but dolls and hoops and balls and ribbons and marbles, wagons and kites. She told her mother about Santa Claus, and her mother seemed to think perhaps he did not know there was any little girl in that house, and very likely he wouldn't come at all. But Piccola felt very sure Santa Claus would remember her this year, for her little friend had promised to send a letter up the chimney to remind him. Christmas Eve came at last. Piccola's mother hurried home from her work. They had a little supper of soup and bread, and soon it was bedtime, time to get ready for Santa Claus. But oh, Piccola remembered then, for the first time, the children told her she must hang up her stocking. And she hadn't any, and neither had her mother. So this is the obstacle of our story. How sad it was. Now Santa Claus would come, and perhaps be angry because he couldn't find a place to put the present. The poor little girl stood by the fireplace, and big tears began to run down her cheeks. Just then her mother called to her, "Hurry, Piccola, come to bed." What should she do? She stopped crying and tried to think. And in a moment she remembered her wooden shoes, and ran off to get one of them. She put it close to the chimney and said to herself, "Surely Santa Claus will know what it's here for. He'll know I haven't any stockings, so I gave him the shoe instead." So this is Piccola's solution to her problem. She went off happily to her bed and was asleep most as soon as she had nestled close to her mother's side. The sun had only just begun to shine the next morning when Piccola awoke. With one jump, she was out onto the floor and running towards the chimney. The wooden shoe was lying there where she had left it, but you could never guess what was in it. Do you guys have any guesses what was in Piccola's wooden shoe? Did she get a present? And what kind of present is it? Post your replies in the comments and let's see if you are right. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer. Piccola had not meant to wake her mother, but this surprise was more than any little girl could bear and yet be quiet. So she danced to the bed with the shoe in her hand, calling, "Mother, mother, look, look, see the present that Santa Claus brought me." Her mother raised her head and looked in the shoe. "Why, Piccola," she said, "a little chimney swallow nestling in your shoe? What a good Santa Claus to bring you a bird." "Good Santa Claus, dear Santa Claus," cried Piccola, and she kissed her mother and kissed the bird and kissed the shoe, and even threw kisses up the chimney, she was so happy. When the birdling was taken out of the shoe, she found he did not try to fly, only to hop about the room. So as they looked closer, they could see one of his wings was hurt a little. But the mother bound it up carefully so it did not seem to pain him, and he was so gentle he took a drink of water from a cup and even ate crumbs and seeds out of Piccola's hands. She was a proud little girl when she took her Christmas present to show the children in the garden. They had a great many gifts, dolls that could say Mama, bright picture books, trains of cars, toy pianos, but not one of their playthings was alive, like Piccola's birdling. They were so pleased as she, and Rose hunted about the house until she found a large wicker cage that belonged to a blackbird she once had. She gave the cage to Piccola, and the swallow seemed to make himself quite at home all at once, sat on the perch, winking his bright eyes at the children. Rose had saved a bag of candies for Piccola. When she went home at last, the cage and her dear swallow safely inside, I'm sure there was not a happier little girl in the whole country of Italy. Did you like that story? Post in the comments what you think of Piccola's gift. The next story that we are going to read is Delivery on Ice. This is actually a story that was written by one of the Story Quest Challenge participants, and this was the 2021 winning story. She won the grand prize, and you have a chance to be able to win the grand prize as well this year. There is 2 opportunities thanks to an anonymous donor who went ahead and provided a scholarship. We went ahead and matched that, so there is going to be 2 winners this year. This story is Delivery on Ice. Do you guys have any festive drinks? I'm drinking out of my red cup. The big day has finally come. The day a certain husky has been waiting for ever since he was a small pup. Flint comes from a long line of sled dogs who are professionally trained to deliver all over the North American continent. And today, Flint and his human, Cooper, have been given their very first job on Christmas Eve. They've been tasked to deliver Christmas gifts to the children of a remote town here in Alaska. Can you believe this, Bud? Our first task's a huge Christmas delivery. How lucky is that? Cooper yelped in delight. Obviously, who better to trust with such an important task than us? Flint exclaimed, prancing around in the fresh snow, leaving small footprints with every leap. Haha, you're right. This is going to be a piece of cake. So notice that we have been introduced to the main characters, Cooper and Flint, and we have the setting of the story. It is set in Alaska. And we have the call to adventure. They have been given an important task to deliver Christmas presents. Cooper laughed, running his hand through Flint's bright coat of fur. The two were very excited for the journey ahead of them. Not minding the potential casualties of the snowstorm, which had occurred just the night before, they began on their merry way. Don't get lost now, you two. Stay on track, their boss called out to them as Flint dashed off into the thick snow, pulling Cooper and the village presents along with him. Yeah, don't worry, old man. We know our way around, Cooper yelled back in response, smiling at Flint trotting ahead. Hike, Cooper signals, and Flint rushes down the paved path towards their destination. A few moments pass before they come to a sudden halt. What's wrong, Flint? Tired already? Cooper questions, slowly taking off his snow goggles to clear them up with his gloves. No, look ahead, can't you see? Flint stutters as he begins to sniff the ground around them. No, see what? Cooper asked, proceeding to clear his vision, revealing the aftermath of a huge avalanche blocking off their route. This is a big obstacle for them to get around. Cooper drew a long breath before continuing. Oh, no. Darn, Flint sighs. What are we going to do? If we turn around now, these kids won't have any presents until after Christmas, Flint explains, digging his paws into the remaining tracks frustratedly. Cooper pondered the situation in his mind a while, then looked around. That's why we won't be retreating just yet. Ha! Cooper firmly asserted, signaling Flint to proceed left. What? But the path is blocked now. The only way around is through the fjord. Flint stammered, shivering at the thought of crossing that paper-thin ice. Only a madman would think of crossing a fjord that had been just frozen over on a sled, Flint thought. This is Cooper's solution to their obstacle. Then we cross the fjord. Hike! Cooper beamed, flashing a confident smile. What? Flint bursts out, in a complete daze. It was not long until Cooper realized the ice would not be able to hold all their weight after much trial and error. Well, I guess we just can't make it today. Very sad. Anyway, perhaps we'll divide the weight traveling across. Cooper interrupted, taking nearly half the load upon himself in a large cloth sack. Huh? No, Cooper! Yep, trumpeted Cooper as he fearlessly flung his loyal husky and the sled, carrying the remaining presents across the ice. Flint howls in fright as he tries to regain his balance. Taken aback by what just happened, he glared at Cooper, who was grinning at the success of his plan. All right, I guess we really are taking this shortcut, Flint mumbles, slowly pulling ahead. Cooper followed behind shortly after Flint left his initial spot so the ice remained undisturbed. Don't worry, as long as we're careful, we'll get all these great gifts delivered on time, Cooper reassures. Yeah, well, these gifts won't be so great if they're underwater, scoffed Flint. Rolling his eyes, Cooper proceeded forward. Slowly but surely, after much slipping and sliding about, they finally made it to the other end of the fjord. Thank the Lord, Flint huffs, collapsing onto the snowy solid ground he missed so much. We made it! Cooper let out a long sigh of relief as he safely set his bundle of presents down on the sled. Look, the route continues just up ahead, Cooper shouts, happily mounting the sled once again. This time, without needing a signal from his partner, Flint dashes through the snow, leaving behind a rough breeze. After a few twists and turns and leaps, their path finally leads them to a small town just north of where they departed. Oh my! One of the village postmen exclaimed at the sight of Flint and Cooper. Excellent work, you two. We'll take these off your hands, the postman chimed as his colleagues dismounted their sleds. Cooper and Flint could only smile back in response, visible exhaustion on their faces. We were expecting arrival to occur earlier today, so I hope there was no trouble on the way here, the postman explained in a worried tone. The two brave rookies glanced at each other. It could have been worse, Cooper chuckled. Much worse, Flint agrees, and they both join in laughter. The end. So I want all of you to go download the prompts, pick your prompt, and outline your story today. Tomorrow we are going to work on writing the introduction. If you need the link to sign up for the challenge and get all of these really fun resources, I will go ahead and post that again. Do you guys have any questions about the 5-day Christmas challenge? I'm really excited to see all of your stories and be able to pick winners and runner-up. If you've participated in our Christmas challenge before, you will be delighted to find a bunch more resources this year. We have fun activities, coloring pages, and even more lessons on writing your short story. So even if you've participated before, I would highly recommend that you guys sign up. This is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, Julie, Christelle, and Paisley for joining us today. I see that we have about 15 people joining us live. So if you guys want to share in the comments what your favorite story from today was, I'd be happy to give you a shout out. Thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to doing another live tomorrow at 1 o'clock MST. And yes, you will be able to rewatch this as well. Thank you for that question, Wendy. I will be uploading this to the Homeschool Quest YouTube channel, so you will be able to catch the replay on that. Hi, Gabriella and Emma. I really did like Delivery on Ice. It was one of the, like I said, what prize winners last year. So I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' short stories as well. Hi, Anna. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead, if you aren't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, I will go ahead and drop a link to that as well so that you can get notified as soon as the replay is available. You also get a copy of all the stories that I read here today. So if you want to read them to your kids or your younger siblings, you are more than welcome to do so. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.